Tommy and Chuckie fiddle with the chess set, unaware that they are ruining a game of correspondent chess that Tommy's grandfather Lou is playing with someone long distance via mail. As Lou comes into the room while reading a letter that states his opponent's most recent move and confident that he's got the winning edge, Lou sees what the babies are doing and rushes over, shocked. "Da! What in tarnation have you sprouts done?" Dee Dee comes, wondering what all the commotion is. Lou complains, "I have been playing this chess game by mail for 15 months, and they went and destroyed it in 15 seconds. Dee Dee replies, "Oh, come on, Pop, it's just a game. I'm sure you can put it back together. I mean, how different combinations can those little pieces make?" Hearing that prompts Lou to break down crying. Convinced that Lou needs some time out, Dee Dee decides to take Tommy and Chuckie with her on an outing to do some errands. Tommy, however, doesn't look too excited to hear this. While in the car, Tommy asks Chuckie if he heard what his mom said. Chuckie replies that she said they are going with her while she does some harems. Tommy asks if Chuckie knows what harems are, and Chuckie replies with no. Tommy goes on to explain, "That's when the grown-ups take you into big buildings where there's nothing to play and they make you sit still forever and not have any fun." Chuckie replies that it sounds boring, and Tommy agrees. "It's the most boringest thing in the world, even more boringer than when my dad watches the Super Bowl." Chuckie asks in light agony what he and Tommy are going to do. Dee Dee then stops the car at 27th National Bank and states to the babies that their first stop is the ATM machine. Chuckie, however, thinks she said M&M machine, and Tommy tells Tommy, "Did you hear that? The M&M machine." Tommy is excited to hear that and concurs that it might not be as bad as they thought. The group, with Tommy in Dee Dee's arms and Chuckie walking by her side, walks up to the ATM machine, and Tommy is mesmerized when he sees the machine up close. As Dee Dee attempts to type in her PIN on the machine's keypad, Tommy reaches over her and frantically pushes the keys himself, until the machine ejects Dee Dee's bank card. Dee Dee calmly tells her son, "Mommy doesn't think this is very funny." Dee Dee puts her card back in and tries again, but Tommy again gets the keys before Dee Dee can enter her PIN. Soon the machine ejects Dee Dee's card again. Dee Dee comments to Tommy that he's a little ball of fire. Dee Dee puts her card back in once more, but the machine shreds the card without giving Dee Dee another chance to enter her PIN. Later, she and the babies go inside the bank. The group goes to one of the desks, and Dee Dee explains to the teller, named Miss Hayes, that they had a little accident at the ATM. Miss Hayes apologizes for the trouble, and Dee Dee has to complete an application for a replacement card. As the babies sit on the floor beside the desk where Dee Dee is completing her application, Tommy points out to Chuckie that he got up to the machine but couldn't make any M&Ms come out, and further states that he and Chuckie need to get back to the machine so they can give them candy. Chuckie, however, remarks that he doesn't want to get in any trouble today, but Tommy replies to Chuckie, "Alright, if you don't want any M&Ms, see you later." He begins making his way back to the ATM machine. Chuckie ponders for a moment on M&Ms versus trouble, then decides on M&Ms and catches up to Tommy. Dee Dee is too focused on completing the application, which is starting to ask rather redundant, if not personal, questions such as blood type, to notice that the babies have wandered off. We see the babies crawl under a small door that leads to the area behind the teller's counter marked Authorized Personnel. The babies pause for a moment as they observe one of the bank's officials named Mr. Lowe giving two bank examiners, agents Richer and Sims, a tour of the bank and introducing them to the bank's friendly tellers, who all turn and smile at the two examiners. Neither of the bank examiners are enthused to hear that the tellers are friendly, claiming that to not be a good sign. Mr. Lowe then directs the examiner's attention to the red buttons on the floor, where the tellers are standing. He explains that each one is connected to the police station, and a SWAT team will have a bank surrounded in 5 minutes if any of the tellers step on one. However, one of the examiners claims that 5 minutes is a hardly record-breaking, and the other agrees. The babies then make their way, walking towards the teller's legs, nearly stepping on the red buttons toward a large window overlooking the ATM machine outside. People are trying to use the machine, but are having trouble with it. Chuckie states, "Well, there it is, Tommy, but how are we going to get the candy?" Tommy sees a repairman working in a nearby room from which the ATM machine's front panel sticks out of the wall, shutting down the machine for repairs. Tommy figures that it must be where all the machine's M&Ms are kept. As Tommy and Chuckie walk in, Chuckie wonders where exactly the M&Ms are, and Tommy points to someplace high up on what's the back of the ATM machine. The babies then proceed to climb up to the back of the machine to where they think the M&Ms are. As they do so, we see one of the customers who's trying to use the ATM machine before it shut down complains, but as the babies continue climbing up, Chucky accidentally pushes down a lever which turns the machine back on and causes it to start shooting out its cash as if it were confetti. All of the people at the ATM then start grabbing the cash for themselves, and one of them remarks, "Hey, hey, hey, come on, baby, Daddy needs a new cellular phone." As the babies watch the machine empty out its cash, without a clue as to what they had just done, they see that it doesn't have any M&Ms, and they figure that the repairman who was there ate them all. Suddenly the babies hear someone shouting, "Move aside! Two guards are bringing in a mint shipment," which is a shipment bags full of cash, and are taking it to the bank's vault. Mint shipment coming through. Tommy believes that they are talking about a whole shipmate of mints. He climbs down from the machine, and he and Chucky start to make their way over. As the guards drop off the bank's mint shipment, Mr. Lowe brings the two bank examiners over so they can get a close look. One of the remarks on a mint shipment during business hours is highly irregular, and the other conquers Mr. Lowe explains the specifications of the vault as the guards handling the shipment of cash open it. He mentions that an electric eye, security beams, protect the vault while the vault's doors open, and the vault would seal an intruder if he or she were to walk through the beam while it's on. The guards temporarily disable the security beam to get the shipment inside by turning two keys, one on each side of the vault opposite each other. Mr. Lowe states that a fly couldn't get into the vault undetected, and Richard remarks, "A fly? No. A corrupt bank official? Who knows?" The babies walk into the vault while the beam is off and the guards' backs are turned, and they turn the beam back to when the babies are inside. Chucky says to Tommy, "Wow, Tommy, how much candy do you think they keep in here?" Tommy then points out the bags of cash and figures that they must keep mints inside. Both he and Chucky ran over and opened one of the bags and pull out its contents. But of course, it's cash instead of real mints. The babies wonder what it is they pulled out of the bag. Tommy remarks that it doesn't look like candy, while Chucky licks the cash he is holding and remarks that it doesn't taste like candy either. Tommy figures that the candy is in the bottom of the bags as if it were a prize and Reptar cereal. Chucky agrees and they start digging through the bag, throwing the cash it contains all over the place in the process. Not long after they started, Chucky concedes and remarks the bag's contents look like green wrapping paper. Just then the babies see a well-dressed elderly woman looking at shiny rubies of hers in the bank's safe deposit room. They mistake the shiny rubies for candy and start to make their way over. Even though the vault's electronic eye is on, the babies are able to walk under the beam and get out of the vault without it closing on them. Just as the babies are out of sight, the guards come back and both gasp when they see the mess the babies made. One of the confused guards walks into the safe with its electric eye on and gets sealed inside. We hear him calling for help as the other guard strangely walks away and leaves him in there. As the elderly woman continues to look over her rubies, Mr. Lowe and the two bank examiners arrive. Mr. Lowe introduces her to the examiners as Mrs. Trencherman and states that she's one of the bank's most valued depositors. The two examiners introduce themselves to Mrs. Trencherman and flash their badges. Mr. Lowe states to a surprised Mrs. Trencherman that there's no need to be alarmed, as it's just a routine investigation. Sim remarks, "Of course, they all start out as routine." Richard comments on Mrs. Trencherman's rubies, and he says, "Obtained legally, I presume." Mrs. Trencherman replies, "Well, of course," as the babies walk into the room and make their way towards Mrs. Trencherman's rubies. Richard then goes on to state that it makes him sick knowing how many criminals infiltrate the banking system. Mrs. Trencherman, insulted, replies, "Criminal types? Why, Mr. Lowe, I don't know who these gentlemen are, but no one speaks to Mrs. Harriet Trencherman that way." As the babies reach into Mrs. Trencherman's safe deposit box and pull out her rubies, Mr. Lowe tells the bank examiners, "Gentlemen, please. Mrs. Trencherman is one of our oldest customers," but stating that unintentionally gives off the wrong message and only further insults Mrs. Trencherman. "Old? Why, I." Mr. Lowe replies nervously, "Mrs. Trencherman, when I said old, I didn't mean to imply." Mrs. Trencherman cuts him off and revolts angrily. "It's true that I'm no giggling schoolgirl, Mr. Lowe, but I would hardly consider myself old." Mrs. Trencherman slams the safe deposits room door on the men once outside, and then the babies bite on Mrs. Trencherman's rubies and find out that they are not candy. Tommy says, "Hey, these aren't candies, they're rocks." Back on Mrs. Trencherman, she walks back to her safe deposit boxes, remarking to herself, "Old indeed. At least I'm old enough to know the best way to hang on to money, not in cockamamie stocks and bonds, but in diamonds and rubies that will last forever." Mrs. Trencherman then looks down at her safe deposit boxes, and noticing in shock that they are empty, she shrieks and faints. Tommy and Chuckie see this, but Tommy only figures that it must be her nap time. Tommy and Chuckie walk out to the safe deposit room and notice Miss Hayes from earlier licking a lollipop as she walks by. They figure that she knows where Candy is and decide to follow her. Dee Dee still works on the application that is now asking for her great-grandmother's maiden name. Miss Hayes walks up to a door, puts a lollipop in her pocket, and then opens it to talk with to whom appears to be one of the bank executives, Mr. Poltax. Just as the teller walks up and gets Mr. Poltax's attention, he angrily tells her, "Miss Hayes, if I've told you once, I've told you a million times. Please don't interrupt me when I'm reviewing loan applications." Miss Hayes shamefully apologizes, and Mr. Poltax replies, "People's futures are at stake here. They are life and death decisions. Don't let it happen again." Miss Hayes then walks out to let Mr. Poltax work. The babies walk inside and up to Mr. Poltax's desk, but he doesn't see them. Not long after, Miss Hayes bursts back, much to Mr. Poltax's annoyance, and tells him that Mrs. Trencherman has fainted. Mr. Poltax immediately gets up and follows Mr. Hayes to the safe deposit room in a hurry, hoping Miss Trencherman is all right and pointing out that she's worth millions. With Mr. Poltax gone, the babies are now free to explore his office. Tommy remarks, "Oh, Chuckie, look at this place." Chuckie replies, "I don't know, Tommy. It doesn't look like any candy store I ever saw." Tommy, however, is confident that there's candy hidden somewhere. He and Chuckie start to look around. Chuckie climbs up on the desk and starts to stamp papers with a stamper. Tommy goes over to a file cabinet and starts digging through its contents, throwing them out onto the floor, and he does so. Chuckie then notices a computer terminal that's turned on and online. He makes it out to buy a TV. I wonder what kind of TV to be a TV. I wonder what kind of TV this is. Chuckie presses a key on the keyboard, and this prompts the computer to display an arrow growing up and making ascending beeping sounds. At another location, another computer terminal at a man's desk begins doing the same thing. This prompts the man to excitedly get on his phone to say, "Marty, pork belly prices are going up like crazy. Buy, buy, buy." At the New York Comedies Exchange, the soaring statistic that Chuckie made happen is being shown on a large screen, and excitement is ensuing on the exchange floor in response to that. Back at the bank, Chuckie, who of course had no idea what he's doing, doesn't think it's a good channel and presses another button on the keyboard. This prompts the computer to display an arrow going down and play descending beeping noises. Man from a moment ago sees the statistic plummeting on his computer, and he gets back on the phone in panic. "Marty, there's been a change. Sell, sell, sell." The plummeting statistic Chuckie made happened is also shown on the large screen at the New York Commodities Exchange. Now panic begins to ensure the floor. Back at the bank, Chuckie decides to walk away from the computer, saying to himself, "This is the worst TV I ever saw." Chuckie walks over to Tommy and tells him to stop, and that he's now certain that they aren't going to find any candy. Tommy agrees with him and adds, "Wherever they hid it good." Chuckie then states that they should find Tommy's mom, and they start to make their way back. As they're walking back, walking among the teller's legs as they're standing in the front counter where the red floor buttons are, Chuckie ponders that perhaps there's no candy anywhere in the building. Tommy adds, "But if they don't have any candy, what's all the fuss about?" Chuckie then accidentally steps on a teller's red button, and this sets off an alarm at the police station. A hefty female officer who sees the alarm gets on the radio and says, calling all cars, 211 in progress, 33rd and Main." Meanwhile, Tommy and Chuckie have just come back to Dee Dee, who has finished her application. Ms. Hayes then comes over and takes out a bag of lollipops and asks Dee Dee if she's finished. Dee Dee says she is, but points out that it was a challenge. Ms. Hayes apologizes for that, but also points out that rules are rules. Unaware of what the babies have been up to the entire time, Ms. Hayes also gives the babies 2 lollipops for being so well behaved. Back in the car, as Tommy and Chuckie are enjoying their lollipops, Dee Dee tells them that they were great, and such a relief that she can bring them with her when she does her errands. Meanwhile, the 2 bank examiners are working outside and getting ready to leave the bank as well. It's apparent that the bank didn't fare well in their examination, as they filled their suitcases with cash they have confiscated. Mr. Lowe is pleading with them and pointing out that our bank has a spotless reputation. One of the agents replies, "I'm sorry, Mr. Lowe. Until your security procedures are improved, we'll be taking this money down to headquarters to keep an eye on it. Suddenly, police cars pull up surround the group on all sides. The hefty female officer gets down one of the cars and orders the two examiners, "Hold it right there, you two!" As the two examiners are apprehended, Mr. Lowe asks what's the meaning of this and points out they are bank examiners, but the female officer goes on to state that they are not really examiners, and are in fact the two most notorious bank robbers in the whole country, that the force had been after them for years. Mr. Lowe is shocked. She also adds, "Thank goodness someone had the foresight to trip the alarm. Otherwise we might not have caught him." A flabbergasted Mr. Lowe takes the suitcases of money back and Richard remarks, "I don't know where we went wrong. It should have been like taking candy from a baby." As he says that, Dee Dee drives away with Tommy and Chuckie, who, as he's enjoying his lollipop, is unaware that he became a hero as it was who'd unintentionally saved the day by stepping on the red button and summoning the police.